One of the things you mentioned, and it was kind of surprising, was that Israel used depleted uranium.
Right, right.
When did they do that?
So during the Operation Gaza, it started in Sajaya neighborhood, one of the first fights of the Gaza massacre. Basically happened when the Golani Brigade went in and met a very hard resistance that killed 13 Golani soldiers at the first day that they went into Sajaya. It was the July 19. And immediately struck back with all the weapons they can. We're talking about from the sea, from the air, and from the ground, including tanks shooting shells. A lot of these shells are being built in with depleted uranium in them. This is coming out from testimonies from soldiers in the artillery forces, in the tanks units on the ground, telling me that the shells with the depleted uranium are already there. There's always shells with depleted uranium on the tanks, but they're not always using them. And this time they got an order to use them. So they're shooting a chemical weapon into very populated civil neighborhood with a lot of civilians still in it, killing in a matter of 6 or 7 hours more than 120 human beings in one night.
And you were there. You were there all last summer?
I was on the border, on the Israeli side. I was on the border waiting for soldiers to come out, taking their testimonies. I didn't believe mainstream media, like I'm sure you didn't. And I was waiting to see what's really going on there. And I saw the bombing from outside, but it wasn't until I heard the testimonies from the soldiers' mouth themselves that I believe that they did it again. It wasn't white phosphorus. This we managed to stop after 2009 with all the reports. But this time it was something new, not less harmful.
And I seem to remember that you were interrogated. Is that right? That you got under some problems there yourself?
I was. It started because I got a report out about how soldiers used the death of their friend as an excuse to revenge in Sajaya and to basically assassinate and target and killing civilians when they know there were civilians. They know it wasn't a harm for their life at the moment, and snipers shoot at civilians in Sajaya, like Salam Khalil Shamali, and other stories that happened that day in Sajaya. It's of course happened all over Gaza, in Han Yunis, in Huza, in Rafah, not only in Sajaya. But this target and killing got me to be interrogated for the first time this summer, and later on the depleted uranium got me to another set of problems with Shin Bet in Israel.
But they did let you out, obviously, you're here.
They did. It's not a new thing. For the last 5 years, almost every summer I'm getting harassed by these authorities and being arrested. This time it wasn't that bad like I could expect it. I don't know what will happen. I'm going back to Israel and Palestine in June, and I don't know what will happen then.
Let's get back to last summer. You talked last night about mobs inside of Israel. What was that like?
That was probably the scariest thing in the operation that nobody is talking about, except for what happened obviously inside Gaza, happened around the West Bank, East Jerusalem, but inside Israeli cities. The fascism level in the cities, in the Israeli cities, is rise so much because you cannot really sustain an apartheid regime without it getting into the streets. And it did get into the street with the backup of politicians, with the backup of media channels in Israel. There were mobs of hundreds of people in Jerusalem, in Tel Aviv, in the south, in the north. I was in Jerusalem at the time with my movement, with the friends from Anarchists Against the Wall, Boycott from Within, just looking around us and seeing mobs of hundreds of people going down the main streets of Jerusalem and calling out Palestinians that work for us in the west side of Jerusalem, coming from East Jerusalem, working for us in cleaning and cooking, calling them out of stores that they're working in and lynching them in the middle of the streets. Our movement tried to go around Palestinians and make sure that they can go back home safely. One of the things I did last summer was join one of these mobs, just infiltrating one of them, most of them looking like me, Arab Jews. It wasn't so suspicious, and just texting every time we got into an area to the rest of the guys of the movement to make sure there's no Palestinian in sight. And the things that I heard were crazy about Jews only loving Jews. Jews can only live with Jews. We need to basically kill. If there's a Palestinian guy hitting on one of our girls, we need to kill him. If there's a Palestinian guy raising his head too much in Jerusalem, we basically need to kill him. There were a few lynches down there in the summer that ended with a killing. There was another one of a bus driver after the summer in the fall. There was 2 new lynches now in Purim, in the holiday, a couple of weeks ago, and there was 1 lynch tonight. Tonight, in the night of the conference, there was a lynch in Jerusalem.
Now, when you
Again,
say a lynch here means killing.
so it was almost a killing. There's a Palestinian man right now in a hospital in a very harsh condition after being attacked by a few Israelis, some with sticks and one guy with a knife that stabbed him in the face. And right now he's fighting for his life.